The text arrived at 11:42 p.m., blunt, cold, and finished. We no longer trust you. No hello, no context, just that sentence. I stared at the screen longer than I probably should have. Not because it stung, but because it confirmed something I'd already suspected. I typed back a single word. Understood. Then I set the phone aside and poured a drink. They hadn't always been strangers. Once, my parents' approval guided everything I did, which college I chose, what job to take, even who I dated. I built my decisions around their expectations and learned, painfully slowly, that my loyalty ran in only one direction. The fracture started 2 years earlier when my father asked me to put money into his latest idea, a real estate scheme that smelled off. Family helps family, he said. I read the paperwork. Inflated values, hidden debts, sloppy fudging. I refused, carefully, respectfully. That night my mother rang, sobbing about how I'd embarrassed him. Suddenly the choice was no longer about prudence. It was about control. To them, I wasn't a person with limits and opinions. I was a resource to be drawn from until I dried up. Then came the discovery. Someone had used my business identity to secure a loan. I confronted them. At first, my father denied everything, then shrugged. We did it for the family. You can afford it. My mother's line was colder. After everything we've done for you, this is the least you can do. It was astonishing how neatly they rewrote the past to suit their present demands. I hired a forensic accountant and watched the trail uncoil. Forged signatures, diverted transfers, misuse of my company's name to create credibility. All of it led back to them. I didn't shout or break down. I said simply, I understand. Then something shifted inside me. The impulse to fix everything immediately was replaced by a plan that required patience. First, I secured myself. I tightened access accounts, changed credentials, froze authorizations. Then, not out of spite but out of necessity, I prepared evidence professionally, documented transfers, copies of forged documents, dates and logs, and had my lawyer store encrypted copies ready to deploy. I wanted leverage, not spectacle. I called a family meeting. They came expecting the usual groveling apology. My father looked confident. My mother wore something somber, as of attending a wake. I spread the files on the table and let them read. Their faces drained color, as the proofs spoke for themselves. I didn't accuse. I handed them an NDA instead. Sign this now, I told them, and I'll make everything disappear. Pride wrestled with panic. They signed with shaking hands. A few nights later, the message slipped into my phone. We no longer trust you. Short, final. Betrayal tastes different when the sharp edge turns back on the hand that held it. 3 days afterwards, the calls began. Cousins, aunts, family, friends. The bank had frozen my parents' accounts. The property scheme had collapsed. Regulators were asking questions. The path of funds, once documented, led directly to them. They came to my office in desperation. My mother was raw, hysterical. My father was hollowed out with fear. They begged me to fix it. I listened, composed, and said, You told me you no longer trust me. They begged for me to withdraw the complaint, to call it a misunderstanding. I leaned forward and said, cold and steady, that was a misunderstanding. The investigation grew. They never faced dramatic arrests, but the damage was thorough. Financial ruin, social ostracism, the slow unpicking of reputations they had always prized above truth. The house they once boasted about had to be sold. Neighbors who used to smile at them avoided their path. They lost the trappings that had let them play the family that owned everyone else. And me? I moved into a modest apartment with a view of the water. Quiet, contained, the kind of place where peace has enough room to be noticeable. I didn't throw a party or gloat. I let the relief settle in like breath after a long swim. People imagine revenge as an eruption. For me, it was balance, a measured reordering of what had been bent out of shape. My parents taught me that love could be turned on and off, that family meant obedience and access. I learned their rules in private and then answered in their language. Contracts, evidence, consequence. When they severed our bond with a curt sentence on screen, I replied the same way I had. One word, nothing more. Understood.